Lead us in prayer.
O God, that you shall be with us during our sitting days, this session. Father, we pray for your Holy Spirit to lead us in our deliberations throughout this afternoon and in the following days. This is our prayer, Father, and we ask it in no other name, but in the precious name of you, Jesus Christ, our Savior, our Lord, our soon coming King. And every one of us here, members of Parliament, agree together and say, Amen. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come. Your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For yours is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Honorable members, I present the order of the National Court of Disputed Written EP number 43, 2022, dated 26 May 2023, in the matter between Mr. Haring Koreka versus Mr. Patrick Basa and the Electoral Commission of Papua New Guinea, in which the court ordered that the first respondent, Mr. Patrick Basa, was not duly elected as member for Kabum Open Electorate in the 2022 general election. The declaration of the first respondent, Mr. Patrick Basa, on 8 August 2022 by the Electoral Commissioner as the member-elect for Kabum Open Electorate is null and void. A by-election shall be held in Kabum Open Electorate. The petitioner's security deposit shall be reimbursed forthwith. Cost is awarded to the petitioner, which if not agreed shall be taxed. Honorable members, I present the order of the National Court of Disputed Written, EP number 35, 2022, dated 29 June 2023. In the matter between Mr. Paru Ahi versus Mr. Peter Isuaimo and the Electoral Commission of Papua New Guinea, in which the court ordered that the petition is upheld, the election of first respondent, Mr. Peter Isuaimo, is declared void. Pursuant to Section 2123 of the Organic Law in National Court, in a national and local level government election, the second respondent, Electoral Commission of Papua New Guinea, shall conduct a by-election for Kairuku Open Electorate. The first respondent, Mr. Peter Isuaimo, shall pay the petition's cost on part basis to the tax if not agreed. the petitioner's security deposit shall be refunded. Honourable members, I have to inform the Parliament that I have, in accordance with Section 110 of the Constitution, certified 5 acts made by the National Parliament. A list of these acts will appear in today's minute of proceedings. Honourable members, I wish to acknowledge the presence of the teachers and students of Sogeri National School of Excellence in Hiri Koyari District, Central Province, in the public gallery. On behalf of the Parliament, I extend to the visitors a warm welcome to Parliament. Clerk, petitions, any petitions? Notices? Honourable members, we have 45 minutes in question time. I'd like to inform you, all members, when you ask your question, make your question short, and the ministers who are answering questions, make your question short so that we have enough time for all members to ask their questions. The Honourable Governor for ECP.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker. My question without notice is directed to the hardworking Minister for State Enterprise, and again it's in relation to power. Mr. Speaker, I think the whole country is experiencing serious power issues. In my own province, I think it's now 5 days we have gone without power. I understand some other provinces have been without power for much longer. In relation to his previous responses, he did indicate that the long-term solutions are in the pipeline. This question is in relation to what might be the short-term solutions to deal with the immediate power shortages that we are experiencing, particularly for, in our case, ECP, but more so for the entire country. If he could give us that response, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Minister for Enterprise, State Enterprise.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker. I want to thank the Governor for East Pacific Province for this important question. I must point out that I was not aware until just at the time of this questioning that there's been no power to the important town of Wewak for the last 5 days. Mr. Acting Speaker, this is unacceptable. No one can accept this, and there is no excuse. And every time I have been made aware of such incidents, I have been personally intervening myself as minister to make sure that there is the problem with power quickly attended to. The case of Wewak has been an ongoing issue. When I inquired, Mr. Acting Speaker, I was informed by the employees of PNG Power that they had issues with adequate supply of diesel to maintain the power station in Wewak, and the length of time it was taken for the supply vessel to travel from Leh to Wewak, or wherever it was to supply. But again, Mr. Acting Speaker, it is unacceptable. They should have, PNG Power is supposed to have enough cash to be able to give those centers the attention it deserves. And Mr. Speaker, I am, as a minister, very embarrassed to be able to respond to this question again and again. There is a real need for that company to be overhauled, and most of us leaders know about the situation confining this company. We worked very, very hard to, we know where the problems are, and myself in my ministry, there is enough literature on this company. Many studies have been made, starting with Coromenta way back in 2016. Those problems were identified. I must admit that it's purely a management issue, and There is a new board led by a new hardworking chairman together with very experienced board members who are actually working on turning this around. I do not have immediate solutions or short-term solutions to this, but we are working very hard, and the next couple of days, I know this is not an answer to the problem being encountered by our people in WIWEC, but there will be changes in the way the company is being managed. Funds have been allocated, they've been identified. With instances where 4 people are, for example, occupying one person's job. This is not acceptable, and changes are being made now, but it'll take some time because all those people who are there have to be properly looked after financially or paid out before they're removed. But yes, I must admit there is an entrenched issue with management. This is purely a management issue. The problem of consistent fuel supply has been identified, and we have pointed it out many times again and again, but unfortunately this situation is occurring again. I will, after this, attend to this myself, and I want to assure the governor that I will work very hard to make sure that our people of WIWEC, plus other centers who may be experiencing a similar situation, get the fuel that they deserve. In the case of WIWEC, while I have this opportunity, Mr. Speaker, I've been working with the governor himself to identify a suitable land so that we can build a solar power system up there, so that it'll provide redundancy in case when, for some reason, there is a shortage of fuel. So, Mr. Acting Speaker, I must again, on behalf of PNG Power, apologize to the people of WIWEC for this unreasonable situation they have forced again. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Governor for
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My series of questions are to the Minister for Mining, and it's in relation to the issue or subject of seabed mining. Papua New Guinea was the first guinea pig nation for this particular activity, and we lost about 300 million kina, I believe, to an ambitious plan to mine our seabed, an activity that caused a lot of concern for our coastal communities, such as the people of Oro. Now we hear that this company is making a return, or attempting to make a return. So we're curious to know if they're going to come and seek another 300 million or so. So can the minister explain or confirm whether there is truth to these rumors suggesting that this company, Nautilus Seabed Mining, is planning to return to PNG to engage in deep-sea mining activities again? Through you, Deputy Speaker. Can the minister, given the past experiences with Nautilus Seabed Mining, advise as to whether the government has taken steps to reinforce the country's mining laws and policies to protect the interest of our citizens and the sovereignty of our waters? And what measures have been introduced to ensure that the fiscal obligations of mining companies, especially those engaged in potentially high-impact activities like deep-sea mining, are strictly enforced? And in the case of Nautilus Seabed Mining, can the minister detail any steps that have been taken to recoup the $300 million? My apologies, Deputy Speaker. It was actually $300 million, not kina. That was paid by the PNG taxpayers. What progress has been made? And if not, what are the obstacles? Are there any provisions or safeguards in place to prevent the recurrence of such an event where a foreign company receives significant funding but fails to deliver on their promises? This is one of many examples. Can the minister explain how the government intends to protect our marine environment from the potential adverse impacts of seabed mining? Can the minister clarify how the government plans to handle the opposition from NGOs and other groups against deep-sea mining in our waters in the case that Nautilus Seabed Mining or similar companies intend to start operations? And lastly, can the good minister assure this House and the people of PNG that all agreements with foreign companies, specifically those in the mining sector, are transparent, beneficial for the people, and conducted in a way that adheres to our laws, respects our environment, and values the welfare of our communities? Thank you.
The Honourable Minister for Mining.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank the Governor for oral for this very important national question, but also a very complex one. I also want to thank the Governor for oral for giving me a notice of his questions before he asked the question. Mr. Speaker, it is now clear from my discussions with this company that the company is planning to return to PNG. This company currently holds 3 exploration licenses, or ELs, that are all undergoing term extensions. A mining lease, ML154, a new mining lease, ML512, known as Saltwater 2, under application. Nautilus was placed under Canadian court's supervised liquidation in 2019 that resulted in Deep Sea Mining Finance Limited, DSM, a private company, acquiring 100% shares in Nautilus. Nautilus is now a subsidiary of this company, Deep Sea Mining Finance Limited. DSM plans to return to Saltwater project through its 3-phase programs of 1, trailing the deep sea mining concept, which is initially planned to commence later this year. 2, concept testing would be followed by trial mining, which DSM planned to commence also later this year. Trial mining would be followed by commercial production, with which DSM plans to commence next year right through to ML 20-year lease agreement. Mr. Speaker, question 2 and question 3 are similar, so I will answer them together. Department of Minerals Policy and Geo-Asset Management has addressed some of these concerns in the Revised Mining Act. As a matter of conscience and best industrial practice, the Mineral Resource Authority has always imposed conditions in license grants whenever laws and government policies are silent or insufficient or on activities that pose risks to environment and communities. Further, the MRA has introduced Financial Assurance Trust Fund.
If you have a written reply to the honourable member on the question, I would not allow you to read them all, take up the whole session on the question time, but I can ask you to seek leave after the question time, and you can present it as a question reply on the statement written. I believe that will get much time of our question time.
I have already given the Honourable Governor a copy of these questions, but I will now ask that these answers to the questions be tabled. I ask leave.
Your request. Honourable members, leave granted? Granted. The honourable member for Abao.
Thank you, Acting Speaker. May I ask leave of the chair to ask you a question?
Honourable, we have a point of order. Honourable Governor.
Apologies for interrupting the efforts of our good member for Abao. I just wanted to ask if the good minister can respond at a later date or sometime this week so that the public can understand the questions that I asked and the answers that are given, rather than just tabling the report, so that he can seek leave sometime later and actually read out those responses so that those questions can be thoroughly answered for the satisfaction of the people. Thank you.
As I've said earlier, that the Honourable Minister can ask leave of Parliament to do more reply on your question, so that can be allowed after question time. Honourable Member for Abao, your leave granted. Please go ahead, ask the chair.
Thank you, Acting Speaker. My question goes to, and if I can get the Treasurer to also take note. Mr. Acting Speaker, over the last 3 months, the issues of law and order have been widely published in many of our media areas, including Post-Korea, National, TikTok, Facebook, etc. Some of them including very serious and damaging videos with respect. And this morning, Acting Speaker, at our government caucus, much of the discussion was around law and order in the country. I think we have agreed that law and order is now in a crisis situation. Many times, Mr. Acting Speaker, we asked the executive government to sort it out. But my question is directed to you with regards to one, has the Parliament got enough funding to fund the Permanent Parliamentary Committee on Law and Order to meet and be part of this solution? I would want, for example, the Parliamentary Committee on Law and Order with sufficient funding to go to the hotspots in the country. Go and find out why mothers are being killed and raped, why government stations are being burnt and schools are being burnt down. We are talking about not the causes of law and order, but we're piecemeal, band-aid approach, more police, which is okay, more training, get Australian police to come, that's okay, but what are the causes? And Mr. Acting Speaker, I strongly recommend that the Treasurer gives the Parliamentary Committee on Law and Order sufficient fund to immediately sit and have a program to visit these places, hotspots in the country, so that they come and advise the Parliament why is it that law and order is in a crisis situation. Right. Thank you, Acting Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Member for Abao. Your question will be noted, and we'll give a reply in the later day of the session. We have a supplementary member for hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the privilege to address the House on a matter of concern that relates to law and order. Before I do that, I want to acknowledge the presence of my constituents from the Sogeri National School of Excellence and the teachers. Welcome. Acting Speaker, my question concerning law and order is very short, and it's like this. And it's directed at the Attorney General, and perhaps the Chairman for CLRC could take note. It's related, so I'll just ask whether or not does the government have any plans relating to?
It's a new question. If you'd like, you can ask to Minister or Treasurer. The question raised by member for Abao is directed to the chair. If you want to do a supplementary, do supplementary. according to what the member last.
Indulgence to raise a question, fresh question to the Attorney General and the Chairman for CRRC take note. On law and order. It's a very pressing question. I think it should be asked.
You will ask the question to the Minister.
Yes.
Honourable Member, I will allow you, but honourable members don't use the supplementary to ask a new question and ask the Chair to direct that question to us. But I'll allow you to ask the question. Go ahead.
Thank you, Acting Speaker. And this is a question that's been raised many times, and that is concerning a big word called the Vagrancy Act. I want to ask the Attorney General and the CRRC Chairman whether the might and resource and intellectual might of Papua New Guinean jurisprudence and judicial excellence will pay any attention to reviewing Section 52 of the Constitution and the Vagrancy Act, which was rendered unconstitutional by the Supreme Court quite some time ago and been put in the too-hard basket. But the very preamble that my colleague MP has raised concerning the rife law and order situation in the country now compels this House to seriously look into managing and controlling the movement of human beings in this country so that human beings in this country can live peaceably, feel safe to walk the streets, feel safe to go to the grocery shop, feel safe, because successive governments, I must say, have failed completely in providing meaningful education, meaningful employment to its people, and providing meaningful engagement in their people in their provinces to remain in the provinces and be meaningful to that economy of that province. Everybody seems to see the limelight in Port Moresby and has rushed down here. For what? To continue the life of to strive in this criminal-infested society or not? That is the reason why I asked this question, and I hope the Attorney General takes particular note and could respond whether we have some priority given to this vagrancy law and given some articulate on the point. Thank you kindly.
Yeah, Attorney General.
Thank you, Acting Speaker. Thank you, Honourable Member for Iri, to ask one of the simple but serious matter this country is facing under law and order. The Section 52 gives us a right, a freedom of movement. So people have the right to move around. Of course, that right is, we must respect other people's rights, properties, and settling on it. So those rights, we have to look at it seriously. And I will get back to advise you next. We can reintroduce, or we can strengthen the law. So obviously we are doing something in a law and order space. Of course, we now recruiting judges, overseas judges, and yesterday I made an announcement that judges will be appointed not on public requesting for applications. You must be on the merits that this guy will be appointed as a judge. People like Kerengakua, he know that if he's not a member of parliament, yes, he didn't done so many cases. He's eligible to be a member of, eligible to be a judge. And other people who are eligible to be judge, not people that are applying. Every lawyer seems to think that 8 years up, I am capable of entering into. That is not. You have to work for it. You have to do constitutional cases. Law report must indicate that you are the lawyer, you are eligible to be judge. So this is some of the things that we are taking measures. So it has been left long time. So now we are taking measures to correct this. and I need all the support I can get from members of parliament so that we can support it, we can correct and rebuild our system. Thank you.
The honourable member for Yalibu Pangia.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker, and thank you for giving the good people of Yalibu Pangia the opportunity to ask a few questions. My questions are related, Mr. Speaker, and I want to direct this to the Prime Minister. This is mainly around law and order issues in the country, Mr. Speaker. As we all know, given the rising cost of living, chronic unemployment problem in the country, the problems that we inherited from the elections, has given rise to the law and order issues that is happening right across the country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the recent killings, especially of innocent children and women, in many parts of the country is alarming. And it is a concern for every citizen in this country. And I'm happy that the good member for Abao has highlighted some of those discussions that is taking place in the government caucus. We are all very concerned, Mr. Speaker, and it is important that the government takes a lead in addressing this issue. Despite many reports, both in social media and public media, government is yet to make a firm approach, firm pronouncements in trying to address the killings that are happening not only in few provinces up in the highlands, but almost daily across the country. Mr. Speaker, in light of this, I don't want to labor on about it, we all understand the problem. But in light of this, my questions to the Prime Minister are as follows. What is your government doing to address the breakdown of law and order in especially two provinces? Our one province of Ela and Enga provinces. If your government has got some firm proposal and firm actions that it's going to take in addressing this issue, please confirm to this Honourable House what resources that are you allocating in terms of manpower and funding so that we can put a stop to these senseless killings in this country, Mr. Speaker. My third question is that the Prime Minister has made many public pronouncements that you will arrest this problem, you will prosecute these murderers who are still running around in our country, roaming around freely, intimidating innocent citizens, particularly our children and our women. And Mr. Speaker, can the Prime Minister acknowledge that this is a national crisis, that he will undertake a review? This is his obligation to undertake a review on the performance of all our law enforcement agencies and hold them accountable to their performance, Mr. Speaker. Also, especially hold them accountable for their lack of performance. And finally, Mr. Speaker, we all know that the COVID has ended, the pandemic has ended. Why isn't the Prime Minister allowing the police commissioner to do his day job? That is, enforcing policing work in this country. Can the Prime Minister commit to this Honourable House and to the country that he will allow the police commissioner and discharge him of that responsibility and allow him to do his work? And of course, the pandemic is ended. We have yet to get the COVID fund reports, but can he make a commitment to this House that he will repeal this act? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Prime Minister.
All right, thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker. Let me appreciate the question from the member for Yalibu Pangia. I want to also acknowledge our children, our students from Sogari School of Excellence who are here. Thank you. Nice to see all of you in your good uniforms, looking healthy, sitting up in the front. I just want to assure you we are doing our absolute best to ensure your country is safe and secured, not just today, but more importantly as we journey into the future. The question on law and order is a
relevant and good question that demands a good answer. I want to firstly, from the outside, Mr. Acting Speaker, give you my assurance that the government is not resting, is not sleeping. In fact, any good government or any concerned government must respond to every issue that is prevalent in their country, and in this case, in our country, our government is sensitive to the issues that face us. The compounding problem of restlessness and lawlessness is a result of many, many years of neglect to the youths. And for instance, Mr. Acting Speaker, a youth in Hela, Southern Islands of Enga in 1997 who have missed school will today be, and if he or she was 10 years old in 1997, today that youth will be an adult of 37 years old, doing nothing but restlessness up there in those mountain provinces. We are living with the consequence of a population that has exploded at a rate of 4% growth every year in an economy that has been growing below 3% every year for the last 48 years. That is a reality that is facing us. Our economy has not been able to create new jobs. Our education system has not been able to expand to adequately give holistic and full education to all our youths, and the restlessness of unengaged citizens today is what we face today, and it's just not up in the mountains, but I mean, we all so concerned, I saw grave concern when places that faced no lawlessness before, places like Kimbe, places like the island of Love, Trobriand for that matter, 32 people were killed as a result of election-related violence right after the elections. And in some other places, you see this bubble that is happening. And this is a point of concern I want to indicate to the country. We are very much concerned that spread of lawlessness must not go to the rest of our country. And we want to confine them into one or two of those hotspots and have a short-term address whilst we work on the long-term address. Mr. Assistant Speaker, or Acting Speaker rather, the short-term measure, whilst it may not have come out to the fullest satisfaction of all of us, but we have sort of put a pulse on what could have exploded really out of proportion. The extra manpower supplied through the use of Defence Force and the additional manpower deployed through mobilizing the mobile police into those trouble spots has been a short-term putting band-aid sort of solution to what is a cancer that is eating in our midst. But the long-term solution, Mr. Acting Speaker, really has been in investing in police and the full law and justice sector. Mr. Acting Speaker, I hate to raise this up, but I have to raise it up. The former Prime Minister is part of the reason why we have this problem. Lack of investing systematically in the law and order space over many years.
Former Prime Minister, we have a point of order.
Mr. Speaker, for a Prime Minister, sitting Prime Minister, to make irresponsible statements like that, blaming one member of Parliament that we are responsible for such killings across the country, Mr. Speaker. Take ownership. Take and provide leadership. That's what I am asking you to do. What the country is demanding you to do. Stop personalizing issues and avoiding the subject that is on and that needs your attention, Prime Minister. Be a leader. Provide solutions.
Mr. Speaker,
lead our people.
I need no lecture from him.
Member for
Make your ruling.
Your point of order is out of order. You seem to be like making a statement to what the Prime Minister is saying, so I'll allow the Prime Minister to continue.
Mr. Speaker, my point was simple. You look at this as allocation to material services. For a long, long time, we have been putting lip service to the material services. under 6 to 7 million kina to the entire menstrual services in our country for the last 48 years, including my own government in the first 3 years I was in government. That is why this year, for the first time, we put more than 80 million kina in menstrual services. This is a process towards fixing a long-term solution, not piecemeal lip service solution like he's been giving the 8 years he's been in power. You talk about someone who was a child in 2012. By the time he left office in 2019, that child is already an adult of 19 years old. Did you create employment to feed him into employment? Did you pay the magistrates enough? Did you build enough courthouses? Did you employ enough police? You're the last person to talk about these issues. Let Mr. Lelang talk about these issues and others. Was sitting there playing marble all the time against contrary advice. Put more police to Hela. Put more police to Enga. You did absolute nothing except worrying about making cuts. My friend, don't talk like sand and sit on the other side. Let's not play marble with people's life.
Honourable Prime Minister, we have another point of order.
Yeah, tell him,
Member,
Mr. Speaker, he's making wild accusations. He has had 4 years to prove it and he's proven nothing. Take ownership of the issues that are on hand in the country. Don't try to compare yourself with me or anybody else. Do your job. People have judged me already.
Yeah.
People have judged me already. No, he's making wild accusations, Speaker. You take control of the debate in this House.
I will rule your
I've asked him simple questions. Answer those questions.
I will allow him to answer the question if you stop bringing up more point of order and repeating the same point of order. So allow the Prime Minister to...
Mr. Acting Speaker, I do apologize. I'm coming to the point. We've now this year allocated more money to the menstrual services like never done before, including the 3 years, 3 hard years I was Prime Minister in 2019, 2020, 2021. We're doing it better this year, 2023, knowing very well that we have failed our people big time. We've now put money higher than ever before, 200 million kina plus in police, to ensure recruitment starts. Police, we've retired all police outstanding obligations so the new police can come into positions that are occupied by police who are holding on to those positions. Mr. Speaker, 3 years we're starting to clean up mess that we have carried on into our system that has decayed our public service, including our police force system. Mr. Speaker, this is a big problem facing us, and I did appeal to members of my caucus already. Next year, we'll ramp up more money. I know money alone cannot fix, but money pays for new policemen. Money pays for new magistrate. Money pays for the new 20 overseas judges we want to bring into our court system. So we dispense with all outstanding backlogs of cases that has been clogging our judicial system, because no government of past have systematically invested in the holistic sector and working on a piecemeal cut and paste system to the convenience of their own choice. Mr. Speaker, this is a big cancer. I speak with a lot of emotion because I feel the pain too. Pain of people dying. You don't think we don't live with this nightmare? We are carrying the scars of people in our nation who bleed all the time. And leaders here hide behind the veil of good leadership. Especially, and I take offense from leaders who had opportunity to contribute in the past. When I move on into the future, I will be silent because I've had my time already. It's just total hypocrisy of some to make comments when they had opportunity to contribute, reshape the future for the better of our country. Mr. Speaker, domestic terrorism has been relooked at. Vagrancy Act has been relooked at. We've instructed Rodney Police Commissioner to recruit 1,000 policemen every year going forward. Until 2029, we must have police force that is a police force of 10,000 people, at least. That is not enough to keep a nation that is active of over 12 million people and growing by every year at 4%. but that is a start in the right direction, Mr. Speaker. We are willing to invest in police, and not just police, but the entire law and justice sector. And in this conversation, Mr. Acting Speaker, it's not as if not all attention has been made, or not all success, rather success has been lacking. I want to report to this House, the so-called ringleader of the terrorist group that attacked the people at Mount Bosavi has been arrested already. We want to talk about negatives, but we don't sometimes talk about positive. He's been arrested already. We don't thank the police commissioner enough. Amidst the many negatives, arrest has been made already. Few, the ringleader who went and banned Caleb High School has been arrested already. We may not have arrested everyone, but arrest has been made already. An LLG president in my own district had guns, arrested already. Mr. Speaker, we will not fix everything overnight, but work has started and work will carry on. Lawlessness must not prevail in our country. I gave myself a personal task that by 2029, my daughter sitting up in the front, must walk around in Boroko safely at night. For me and all of us, we have 6 more years before 2029. And so we're living under the shadows of our own people judging us. And I want to give full commitment to you, Mr. Acting Speaker. Law and order, while some of our pronouncements may not have been achieved because police resource, police gun, police ability, the prosecution ability, the court system ability maybe have been weak and not strengthened. We are allocating resource, we're putting money where our mouth is. 2023 budget has seen the greatest evidence of great allocation to national services, great allocation to police like never before. And I give you my fullest commitment, 2024 and 2025 going on, more investment will be invested in the full sector of law and justice. And the restructure of police will take place. We're doing also work in partnership with the Australian government in terms of the Defence Security Treaty that has been worked on to look at trainers and technical officials from their police to also come and work with the police for training capacity, for specialist police intervention in sectors where we feel outsiders must stay in to assist local police. All this full aspect of police attention is being rendered by our executive government. We hope that by the time I speak to this House in 2025 or into the future, we have made substantial progress in the area of attending to lawlessness in our country. And I want to say to our people out there, we have opened up gate for second chance education also. The education minister will make a statement later. 80,000 youths have come back to second chance education. We're not just working on piecemeal stopping lawlessness. To the youths out there, your government has opened a pathway for coming back to school, picking up SME. If you remain a lawless person, you will be an enemy of state. Join others, the 80,000 young people who have picked up second chance education. They've come back to school last year, 2021 and 2020, as part of us supporting second chance learning. Come back to school, come back to SME, remain with us and abstain from lawlessness, because we're looking into a total package, including fixing law, and there's a growing cry from my side, Mr. Acting Speaker, to reintroduce the death penalty and look into other stronger laws also. We are looking into the law and order space in totality, not sleeping on our laurels, but doing better than what we have done in the last 3 years and what Mr. O'Neill has done in the 8 years he's been in power, and others before us. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The member for Ijibitari.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my question without notice is also directed to the Prime Minister on the same issue. Last week, a young policeman looking after our highway was killed by criminals along the highway. And we had an urgent crisis meeting in the province. And I asked the provincial police commander, how much do you receive?
The honourable member, may I interrupt you? Honourable member for Suave, when you have your colleague member standing and asking question, you don't walk before him while he's asking question. The honourable member for Jibitari, continue.
Thank you. So I asked, how much does the police department release to the province for the operations of the Oro provincial police in the province? And he told me less than 10,000. Sometimes it's only 4,900 per month for the whole police operations in the province. Mr. Speaker, my question is that we continue arguing about funding for the police, but we're looking at it, the police has already eaten enough of our yearly budget. And so my question is the government looking at how to, the devolution powers in the funding to the police at the provincial and at the district level? If you look at the police budget, it is so huge. Just like we deal with the DSIP, my question to the Prime Minister is, can we reconsider how we finance and we transfer police department finances to the provinces and to the district? Because Oro province, 150,000 people plus 50 policemen to about 80, about 50 policemen, 60 policemen, we have 300 plus positions, and 4,900 kina monthly down for utilities and police operation. Mr. Speaker, something is wrong somewhere. And that is the reason why my question is, are we as a government considering looking again at how we disseminate police funding down to the provinces and to the district? My district doesn't even have one policeman, one regular policeman. And we have 40,000 people, and we don't even have one policeman in each Vitari district. So that is my concern. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker. Let me apologize to the member and all of you. Our Internal Security Minister is attending to a historic event that is taking place in Bougainville right now. For the first time, after more than 20 years, and based on invitation from our leaders from the autonomous Bougainville government, our soldiers are now landing our Navy vessel in Bougainville right now as we speak. So he has to fly into a little location in which we receive the soldiers with Minister Manasseh, Minister of Bougainville. So he's not here. But in any case, I will respond to the question, and I want to appreciate the question, especially from those who've never run government before. You have every right to fire me. Others who've run government before, they have no right to fire me. They had the opportunity to do that already. And so I want to appreciate this question. You got one police. That is the statistics most part of our country is facing. Province like Hela became province in 2012. We never supported them to have their own police structure. Today, the police structure is not supported. 60 police. The entire big LNG province, 60 police. This is what we are faced with. And so that's just on police physical presence alone. I give you the statistics. Last year, for instance, and improving on from where we've come from. Last year, operational for police, we improved from 2019, if you say it's improvement. Low allocation of 34.6 million for entire nation's police operation in 2019. And this has come up, and today we have allocated they're forecasting it to increase to 66 million by 2023, but I'd like to believe we've given them greater allocation this year. Mr. Acting Speaker, through you to the member for Ijivitari who's asked this question, we now, based on our consultation with the the Governors Council have identified this weakness also. They proposed to us in the restructure, why don't we have police allocations for police program directly redirected to the provinces under the wards of PPCs, instead of through Waigani to Konedabu to the headquarters. So this proposal has been looked upon, but having said this, the current level of allocation is even still very, very small. I give you another number, for instance. In 2012, 22, for police vehicle maintenance, we got only 12 million for the entire country for 2022. This year, I don't have the numbers with me, but we did a little bit better. But last year was 22 million, so was 12 million. Mr. Acting Speaker, through you, the issue facing us, structure, reform, and resource allocation. I want to put to members of this House, as I informed my government caucus early this morning over lunch, you have maximum allocation to DSIP already coming across. An envelope of 10 million secured, additional 5 for infrastructure, and possible additional 5 based on a district plan to target where you feel is a need. I did inform everyone, please, no more asking more. Next year onwards, we will focus on key national outcome areas. Police, law and order, national health, national education. And I want to give assurance to all of you, if all of you in this floor support this approach, we'll have a blueprint for police and justice sector intervention that must secure our country, because it is really in the next 5, 6, 7, 10 years. If we leave this problem into the next generation, we would have destroyed our country in our time. And so I want to appeal to all members of the House. We don't want the situation you have in Ijibitari, Mr. Acting Speaker, to you, or right across the country. Ijibitari has been a good place, and we've been blessed by the goodness of our people. But we cannot rest on our laurels. We must step up the presence of law and justice sector. And I'm putting to this honourable House, next year budget, assist government, the national government, focus on key national outcome areas. Law and order ranks number 1, education and health ranks number 2, number 3, connect PNG and infrastructure number 4. In the top 4, if we have a concentrated support and the reform we're doing in shifting resources out from Waigani to where the actions are in the provincial capitals and in the provinces and districts, hopefully together in 5, 6 years' time, we could see light at the end of the tunnel. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Deputy Opposition Leader, our question time has already left, so I would not allow for your supplementary. Honourable members, our question time lapse. Minister for Mining.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker. I ask you of Parliament to complete the answers to the questions raised by the Governor for oral.
Question is that the leave granted. Leave granted. Honourable Minister, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The questions were asked. You allowed the Governor to ask the questions, so I should be allowed to answer the questions. Thank you very much. The first question, just remind members again, is just to confirm whether there is truth in the rumors suggesting that the company known as Nautilus Seabed Mining is planning to return to PNG to engage in deep sea mining. The answer is yes, they are planning to return. Question 2, given the past experiences, Nautilus Seabed Mining, has the government taken steps to reinforce country's mining laws and policies to protect the interests of our citizens and the sovereignty of our waters? Question 3, what measures have been introduced to ensure the fiscal obligations of mining companies, especially those engaged in potentially high impact activities like deep sea mining, are strictly enforced? These two questions are together or similar, so I will answer them together. Department of Mineral Policy and Geo-Asset Management has addressed some of these concerns in the revised Mining Act. As a matter of conscience and best industrial practice, the Mineral Resource Authority has always imposed conditions in license grants whenever laws or government policies are silent or insufficient on activities that pose risks to environment and the communities. Further, the MRA has introduced Financial Assurance Trust Fund in every mining operation to cater for unforeseeable shutdowns or damages caused by serious failures relating to mining activities. Question 4, in the case of Nautilus Seabed Mining, can the Minister detail any steps that have been taken to recoup the $300 million that was paid by the PNG taxpayers? What progress has been made, and if not, what are the obstacles? $120 million was paid in 2014 by the state to acquire its 15% equity in Saltwater 1 project. The state's 15% holding interest is registered in the tenement register as being held by Eda Copper Saltwater Limited, or Eda Copper, on behalf of the state of PNG. In 2019, steps were taken by Kumul Minerals and Eda Copper to recoup a portion of the money, $15 million spent to acquire this interest when they filed a claim for its unearned contributions in Saltwater 1 project in Canadian courts supervised nautical liquidation process. The claim in the Canadian courts was rejected because Eda Copper was not a creditor of Nautilus but a partner, as it holds equity in the project, and so the costs were considered sunk costs. Despite the delays in the development, MRA has always ensured state interest is protected and preserved in the tenement, even if there is a new partner. Our 15% equity in the project through Eda Copper remains valid. What the state can do is offload the 15% equity in the project to recoup some of those sunk costs. These are commercial and investment decisions and must be referred to the Kumul Mining Minerals Holdings for their deliberation. Question 5. Are there any provisions or safeguards in place to prevent the reoccurrence of such events where a foreign company receives significant funds but fails to deliver on their promises? Due diligence processes on the economic viability of mining projects are in place, where Department of Treasury and the Mineral Resource Authority and recently the State Negotiating Team assesses the economic viability of any new mining projects proposals and advises the government on whether to exercise its equity options up to 30% participation of cost in the project. In 2014, the state was advised not to acquire any equity options in Saltwater project because at that time, offshore deep-sea mining project had never been tested and tried anywhere in the world, hence considered highly risky. This advice, however, was ignored by the state. 6. Can the minister explain how the government intends to protect our marine environment from the potential adverse impacts of seabed mining? Minister responsible for environment matters, or SIPA, can be consulted on this. However, all bodies are solid vertical bodies. These bodies will be mined using robots and very high resolution cameras, which will allow selective mining with very high precision, which may cause negligible disturbances to seafloor and surrounding environments. Question 7. Could the minister clarify how the government plans to handle the opposition from NGOs and other groups against deep-sea mining in our waters in the case that Nautilus seabed mining or similar companies intend to start operations? All mining projects in PNG have been subjected to opposition from NGOs and other groups. However, the state team has always conducted consultations and addressed areas of concern amicably in the best interest of the nation and the people. Last question. Can the minister assure this House and the people of PNG that all agreements with foreign companies, specifically those in the mining sector, are transparent, beneficial for the people, and conducted in a way that adheres to our laws, respect our environment, and values the the welfare of our communities. As per the Mining Act, all mineral tenements related agreements are registrable items which must be approved by the mining minister. I think it's coming on. Mr. Speaker, can I continue?
Honorable Minister, I would ask you to sit down and we'll just check on the power and then I'll come back.
Thank you.
The Honorable Minister, since then we have power back, I will ask you to continue on to your reply.
Mr. Acting Speaker, lastly, the Minister, last question, can I do it again? Can the Minister assure the House and the people of PNG that all agreements with foreign companies, specifically those in the mining sector, are transparent, beneficial for the people, and are conducted in a way that adheres to our laws, respects our environment, and values the welfare of our communities? As per the Mining Act, all mineral tenements related agreements are registrable items which must be approved by the minister, mining minister, that is. The mining minister is advised by the Mining Advisory Council, MAC, which does these due diligence checks on the agreement to see whether the agreements are in order and have no consequential implications on the state. This process and compliance requirements under the law, in my view, provide sufficient checks and safeguards for the state and our people. The state institutions are set up like MRA, are there to safeguard us and our interests, and we must sufficiently fund them to provide them with qualified people and for them to defend and protect our national interests. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Papers, we have Minister for Education.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Acting Speaker, pursuant to status, I present the annual report of the Department of Education for the year 2022.
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Acting Speaker, I ask leave of Parliament to make a statement in connection with the report.
Question is the leave granted. Minister, make your speech.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to present the 2022 annual report for the Department of Education to the National Parliament. My department has without fail always present its annual report to this House because education is so important and everyone has interest in the education system of our country. The report gives insights into the performances, achievements and challenges of the department while implementing its policies in the 2022 academic year. Mr. Speaker, before I present some highlights of the report, I wish to put on record on behalf of the 2.3 million children and millions of parents our thank you to the Marape-Rosso government for giving its highest priority to education, despite the country's economic challenges. I equally thank every governor and member of parliament for their steadfast support in education. Mr. Speaker, I reiterate my stand that education is the key that unlocks knowledge, talent, skills and development and will ensure prosperity for a nation. It is a common denominator, the foundation upon which society and nations are built, and for that very reason, we must never leave any child behind because of space, because of gender, religion, ethnicity, disability, and whatsoever. Every child has his right to ECE to grade 12, and we are obliged to provide that. We must leave no child behind. Mr. Speaker, the Department's 2022 annual report consists of 122 pages, and it is comprehensive. It reports on many achievements and challenges in 2022. I urge every minister to read it in your own time. In the interest of time, I will highlight only 6 critical and milestone policies implemented achievements and challenges. Number 1, exit of outcome-based curriculum and adaptation of standard-based curriculum, SBC. The OB has been exited in 2022 and Papua New Guinea has adopted the SBC, standard-based curriculum. We have completed the phasing in of SBC into the education system in 2022. The development phase of the SBC, the syllabus and teacher's guide for all subjects and grades except for a few vocational schools and CCVE are complete, printed and sent to schools. Training of teachers in elementary, primary and secondary SBC is completed in 2022. Southern Highlands Province was the last province and was completed in 2023. Our biggest challenge to complete this change is the procurement of the textbooks for students, and we are considering electronic solution. Number 2, FOD reform and expansion. FOD has made huge strides with the approval of the 5-year strategic plan and the Prime Minister's launch in 2020. As you can see in the table, enrollments in 2022, FOD has increased its enrollment to 2020, 35,513. In 2021, 53,436. Enrollment in 2022, 82,877. We will report next year for this year's enrollment, and we are anticipating that it will be over 100,000. The expansion of FOD utilizing secondary schools resources started in 2021 and is advocated at all levels. 10 schools in East Sepik Province, West Sepik Province, Oro, Gulf, and Eastern Highlands, and all schools in Southern Highlands are formally registered and delivering the secondary program. We also have 6 new TVWAN centers, 10 districts successfully
delivering under the reforms. These districts are Taripori, Usinabundi, Imbongu, Kiunga, Yangro Sausia, Maprik, Wawaria, and Ialibu Pangia. We do have some reports of many students entering higher education and training colleges like UPNG, UOG, teachers colleges. We are also investing in some infrastructure projects with a limited PIP support. Number 3, Mr. Speaker, Schools of Excellence. The Prime Minister launched the Schools of Excellence in 2020, so we have a category of students, schools that cater for higher talented students in a practical effort to convert the national manpower from end users of technology to innovators and creators of technology. STEM curriculum has been developed, so it is aligned with the PNG University STEM-related courses. Our pioneer 220 STEM students graduated in 2022. Our policy calls for the enrollment of the top 5% of the grade 10 students to the schools of excellence and the top 5% to be enrolled in overseas universities. 119 students have been selected in our local universities. Overseas scholarship for the top students are being arranged by Department of Education. 7 Australian and 55 scholarships in USA are in progress. Given the huge population of the Highlands region, the National Education Board has approved an additional National School of Excellence in Highlands region for 2024 to 2025. Enga provincial government is helping to build the school. Mr. Speaker, number 4, decentralization. Almost all schools are under the provincial governments. The department has deliberately decentralized some of the functions and activities to the provinces. This includes provincial education laws. All provinces have provincial laws except NCD and 8 provinces: East Sepik, Medang, Ella, Jiwaka, Eastern Highlands, Central, Gulf, Southern Highlands, Western Highlands needs review. Payroll salary decentralization. We only have Ella, Gulf completed in 2022, and Southern Highlands will be the last targeted for 2023. Teachers must not come to Port Moresby for salary issues. Their files and payroll are in the provinces. Government tuition fee management. We have MOAs with New Ireland Province, East New Britain, Morobe, Enga, Milimbe. Others slow due to trust account issues. We have regional offices in each region to support provinces with technical and supervisory assistance, planning, TVET, TSC inspections. National officers assigned, Mr. Speaker, to each provinces, including schools inspectors, GTFS coordinators, guidance officers, curriculum and assessment officers. Funding to support these officers is often a challenge, but provinces help these officers significantly. Most provinces provide significant support. Mr. Speaker, all districts have 2 school inspectors positions. Every secondary inspector positions have been increased to 2 except Morobe 3, Gulf 1 and Manus 1. Requirement of secondary inspectors is very challenging, and headmasters who have high entitlements and privileges are unwilling to take up inspectors' positions. Lack of capacity and expertise at the provincial and district levels remain a concern. Mr. Speaker, number 5, government tuition fee subsidy. In 2022, we distributed or disbursed 632 million in government tuition fee and 160 million in project fees. That means, Mr. Speaker, parents have not paid anything. Our government has subsidized the full 100% school fee subsidy at a total of 792 million kina. In 2023 budget, as you can see the table, my apologies, I think the statement has got the updated statement, so later the clerk will organize that for your noting. But in total project fees, this year, 160 million, government continues to subsidize. We have paid 80 million already. I think the other 80 million is been paid or in the progress. And for a total GTFS, we have paid 333 million. I think last week the remaining balance has been paid to school accounts for terms 3 and term 4. So our students should not be sent home. Our government is paying fees. Our teachers are reminded to keep our students in schools. Our payment in term 1 was on time, but term 2 was paid on Friday, 26 May 23, to all schools. The decentralization of school fees to provinces is by principle a good policy. 5 provinces are decentralized under MOAs, but there are practical issues of implementation, including schools receiving less funds that naturally or nationally allocated, and or funds remitted to schools not on time. We have audited New Ireland province, and the others will follow to determine the way forward. Commodity component. Mr. Speaker, all materials procured in 2022, the 74 million kina have been dispersed by 32 SMEs. That is 27 million. Local content, except a few districts in Southern Islands and Momase, have not been completed as schools are unable to collect from the distribution point. Alternatively, arrangements are being made. Mr. Speaker, for 2023, all supplies contracts will be done by provinces. PNG SMEs will be given the opportunity to bid for the tenders. Tenders will be out by about around August, September this year for supplies to reach schools at the start of term 1 in 2024. Mr. Speaker, number 6, infrastructure and responsibility. There are so many requests coming to my office and the Department of Education for school infrastructures like classrooms and library, whatever. This clearly highlights, A, the huge need at every school level in the districts and provinces, that we are not too sure of who is responsible for capital development at each school level. The organic level clearly, or law clearly specifies that all general education system come under the provincial governments, except these that come under the minister, namely NCD, FOD, National Schools of Excellence, and Special Education Centers. I will further look at decentralizing FOD and Special Education Centers as well. D, for now, I believe we need to consider a sector of education, each level of government as follows. Number 1, LLG and DDAs must be responsible for early childhood and preschools. Number 2, LLG and DDAs must be responsible for primary schools. Provincial governments, high schools, secondary schools, and vocational education. National governments and Department of Education, National Schools of Excellence, FOD, Special Education Centers, and NCD with NCDC. Number 4, national government, that is the higher education, all institutions post-secondary. Mr. Speaker, our government's commitment, the Maraperoso government is committed to education. We will pay full school fees, including project fees, buy textbooks, build more classrooms, other school infrastructure, train and retrain teachers to teach the same standard-based curriculum we have started and we will continue. Mr. Speaker, major policy interventions such as government tuition fee is one of the key commitments this government made to the people of Papua New Guinea to ensure no child is left behind. It made a commitment to pay 100% school fee for students from elementary all the way to grade 12 in 2022 and still remains up to this year. Mr. Speaker, our department has gone through the overhauling of our education system, and we have worked on the education, PNG education transformation vision, and I thank the Cabinet to approve that. Our team will work on and develop that with the consultation to districts, open members, churches and development partners to ensure we develop that. So we look at how we could change our entire education system that is PNG homegrown, so we address our social issues that we are facing. Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, I thank the Marape Rosso government and honourable members of parliament from both sides for their continued support to the education sector. To the governors, I acknowledge your undivided support and make education a key priority area in your budgets and other resource allocations in your respective districts and provinces. I sincerely thank our partners and stakeholders for their continued support. Mr. Speaker, finally, I thank the Secretary for Education, Dr. Uke Kombra, and the management team, and all the staff of the department for successfully ending the academic year 2022. I further extend my gratitude to the provincial education boards and provincial and district education advisors, school boards of management, guardians, community, parents, and for their undivided support. I appreciate your support and look forward to continue support this academic year, this year 2022. Mr. Speaker, and may God bless Papua New Guinea. Thank you.
Leader of Government Business.
Mr. Acting Speaker, I move that Parliament take note of the paper presented by the Education Minister and adjourn debates and be made an order of the day for a subsequent sitting.
Question is that the motion be agreed to. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. Ayes have it. Leader of Government Business.
Mr. Acting Speaker, I thank members on both floors, both sides of the House, for attending our first day of this parliamentary week. I also thank and acknowledge our students from Sogari School of Excellence who've sat faithfully throughout the entire session. We acknowledge their presence as well. Mr. Speaker, Acting Speaker, I move that we adjourn Parliament to tomorrow 10 a.m. Thank you.
Question is that the motion be agreed to. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. Ayes have it. Honourable members, I now adjourn Parliament to tomorrow 10 o'clock a.m.